my most beautiful memory of my daughter was when she was going to sleep. That's the time that I felt really most connected to her. I felt that kind of real deep fatherly love, like just seeing her just drift into sleep and drift into peace. And the fact that I'm doing that for literally millions of people each month, I'm sending them to sleep. People are feeling unsafe. And if I can help people get that few hours of peace and few hours of safety, it's definitely part of my stress and burnout work.
Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Finding Equilibrium show. Delighted to be here and delighted that you're here and delighted that my guest today is Chibs Okereke. Now, Chibs is a mindfulness facilitator and a stress and burnout coach and one of the leading voices on the Calm app. And his YouTube channel has had millions of views every single month. So welcome, Chibs. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Good to see you, Lawrence.
Good to see you, and thank you for making some time. I know how super busy you are with all your travel and everything.
But, yeah, well, always got time for you, Lawrence.
And you're in Sydney?
Yes, in Sydney, soon to be in Bali in a few days, soon to see you in Bali in a few days.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to that.
Will be good. So maybe a starting point is your YouTube channel. So I know the sleep meditations that you've done are listened to by thousands and thousands of people around the world. And I'm curious to understand what it is about the channel, why that's taken off in such a big way.
Good question. Yeah. Well, first of all, it's quite funny. I never really thought of myself as the sleep guy, but for some reason the universe wants me to be the sleep guy. So I always thought I was the stress and burnout expert, and that's what people wanted me for. But when I got into the Calm app and I did a bunch of little short, sharp kind of work focused stress type meditations, and then they were like, oh, can you do some sleep meditations for us as well? And I was like, oh, that's cool, I'll do some sleep meditations. So I did some sleep meditations, and then quickly that became the thing. Well, it wasn't that quick actually, but slowly over time that became the thing that I became most known for, was the sleep meditations. Yeah, it took me a little while to realize that I actually had a good voice. I thought I was this stress and burnout thought leader, and that's why I thought Calm wanted me, but no, it's probably they wanted me for my voice and my teeth, so I feel slightly stitched up there. But yeah, whatever. You got to use whatever gifts God gave you and take advantage of those. And it's kind of come about full circle. And actually now I realize over the last year, since my channel really has taken off, I've realized, this is 100% in my wheelhouse. This is probably the most important part of stress and burnout that there is, and it's certainly the one that's kind of highlighted the most. It's certainly the one that is the first to go, or really shows you what's going on with your life. So it's certainly within the stress and burnout realm, but it's just specifically sleep. But I do love the fact, and I did tell Calm this back in the day, one of my most beautiful memories, maybe the best memory that I've got of my daughter was I don't know if this is going to sound bad, but when she was going to sleep, that's the time that I felt really most connected to her in a weird way, and I felt that kind of real deep fatherly love, and it was like just seeing her just drift into calm, just drift into sleep and drift into peace. So that was always a really special time for me, was putting her to bed. That was one of my favorite times. And then the fact that I'm doing that for literally millions of people each month, I'm sending them to sleep. And it's that same kind of energy that I put out. I realize when I'm recording these meditations, it's that almost, sorry to the guys out there, but it's almost that kind of fatherly love that I'm kind of putting out. And I think that comes across, and because there's lots of comments on my YouTube channel which really confused me, probably about a year ago. Now it doesn't confuse me as much, but it was like, yeah, your voice makes me feel really safe. You know, your
Mm.
meditations make me feel safe. And I was like, what's this? What are they talking about feeling safe? I don't understand what that means. But now I kind of get it. You know, it's a really vulnerable time, especially if you're stressed, especially if you're burnt
Mm.
out, especially if you've got issues going on in your life or the world has gone crazy or whatever. You know, there's a lot going on in the world at the moment, a lot going on in people's lives, even without the world craziness going on. So people are feeling unsafe, whether they register it as feeling unsafe, like, you know, let's say some big tough guy in fight or
Mm.
flight, that's still feeling unsafe, right? So
Mm.
fight or flight, irritation, annoyance, always on edge, that's fight or flight. Okay, so if it
Mm.
comes out in aggression, doesn't mean it's not you feeling unsafe. So in some people, it comes out in a feeling of I want to run away or I want to hide or I want to freeze. Other people, it's like I'm just really irritated, just leave me alone. I want to stay away from everyone. But there's this feeling of unsafety. And some people have that language and some people don't. And so I'm starting to realize that whole kind of word safety is really, really important. And whether we realize it or not, there's a lot of feeling of unsafe in the world out there at the moment. So the sleep part is a really important part. And if I can help people get that few hours of peace and few hours of safety while they sleep or while they drift off to sleep, then yeah, then it's definitely part of my stress and burnout work.
And you can see why a lot of wellness experts say that sleep is the starting point, because if you're exhausted, it's hard to do all the other things. You know, it's hard to deal with the general environment or whatever triggers there are, whatever stresses there are out there. So well done for doing that. I know some of your sleeps that meditations go on the whole night. Is that right? Like that 8 hours? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So honestly, there's probably a lot of people out there that I am talking to for, you know, almost the majority of their lives. Certainly, I'm talking to them more than anyone else in their life.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was one of the things that I started. I kind of thought, what would it be like if, because I know that I wake up sometimes, and the more stressed I am, or more stress that's going on in my life, the more often or the more likely it is that I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night. And so I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice if when you woke up, you didn't have to fumble around on your phone and look for a sleep meditation, which I have got those ones with the thumbnail which says, yeah, you're awake at 3 a.m., aren't you? It's like, yeah, click on this. Let me make it easy for you to click on this. But I thought, well, how about just having one which goes all through the night? You know, so if you do wake up, then you can just pick up somewhere, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'll just kind of rotate something on loop, getting quieter and quieter as the night goes on. So it's less disturbing. So there's less for you to do, less adjustments you need to make. You can just kind of like, oh, I'm awake. All right, let me just pick up back on that body scan or back on that breathing exercise
Just
or
keep
back on
going.
that whatever it is and just keep going. So yeah, so many of my meditations are all through the night. Plus, it's a way of stopping these stupid YouTube adverts coming on at the end of my sleep meditations.
Yes.
So I'm like, all right, YouTube, I'm blocking you. I'm blocking you from disturbing my audience's sleep, and I'm not going to let you put an advert on until it's ended after 8.5 hours. So there's
And that's
two
your
very good
wake up.
reasons for those overnight meditations.
And that's your wake up, the YouTube advert.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe if we take a step back and just look at stress in a bigger picture way. So there's a lot of stress, and you hear a lot of people saying, "I'm really stressed," and that stress comes from the macro, the big picture, the global scenario, if you like, that impacts us all, and also from our local lives, our micro lives. But what are the attributes? You know, what are the traits that lead to stress? I'm curious on your perspective. Yeah.
What makes stress happen? So yeah, gosh, almost anything in this world that we're living in at the moment. I mean, it's a really rushed, urgent, constantly changing environment that we live in at the moment, you know, which back in the day, that change and that kind of that constant having to be on alert would only happen in short bursts. So you'd have a lot of time to relax, and then you'd have to switch on every now and again, and then you're on. But in this day and age, we've almost trained ourselves, you know, and part of it is, well, the majority of it is technology is just so intrusive these days, and it's so almost necessary for all of us. So we're tapped into this new mainframe that we find ourselves in. So the world has changed, technology has changed, but also, we just haven't got the discipline, or some of us don't have the knowledge that we do need to switch off from technology and kind of create these little areas of space, these little oases of calm in our days or in our lives. So for many of us, we are just in that constant state of alertness. So we might not be like constantly panicking the whole time, but there's this mild level of fight or flight going on the whole time because we're constantly switched on. So even if you've got your I'm sure you notice it, like we're all sitting around the table and someone has their phone on and the ping goes, everyone's attention immediately goes to that ping. So we're all just alert to these noises, right? And we've all just accepted these intrusions in our lives, and it's kind of normal, right? So we're all just on edge. So it doesn't feel like we're on edge just because we're open to a ping of a text message, but we are, and our nervous system's kind of alert. So forget about what's going on in the world at the moment, but just in our own mundane, everyday lives, we're constantly being taught to stay alert. Our nervous systems are constantly being told to be ready to respond to all these inputs that come in from here, there, and everywhere. So that's what's going on today. But also, I guess our resilience to stress probably is rooted in childhood, and the safer an environment that we grew up in, the more resilient to stress we're likely to be. So the less safe an environment we were in, then the more we are going to be at the mercy of what's going on in the outside world. So so there's things that kind of stemmed from our genetics. Some of us are more prone, anxious parents pass down anxiety. So there's the genetics, there's the nurture, depending on what environment we grew up in and how we were trained. That makes us more prone to stress or burnout. And then there's the technological environment. And then there's, of course, the uncertainty, what's going on in the world, conflicts and AI and change and layoffs, and everything's just moving. So the nervous system's just trying to grab on and hang on and keep up and keep us feeling safe. So let's be alert to all the stresses that are out there at the moment. And to do that, I'm going to make you slightly in fight or flight at all times.
Yeah, it's so interesting hearing you talk, because you can see why so many people are burning out, because the world has changed, technology has changed. This always on culture means that there's always stimulus, and yet our nervous systems haven't evolved. So we have to proactively do things to give us the space and the breaks that you described. So I'd love to bring in mindfulness. So clearly at some point in your journey, and I know your background was an entrepreneur who went through this yourself, so everything you do now has come from your own lived experience. But what is mindfulness? Like, how can mindfulness help people? Because when people are in such a state of, and even if it's low level fight or flight, low level stress, but just sitting down and having space for 5 minutes can be very challenging for people. So how would you describe mindfulness as a solution, and how can people start to embrace that in their own lives?
Yeah, well, mindfulness, there's many good reasons to do mindfulness. My particular number one reason for doing mindfulness, and it's the case for many of the high performers that I work with, is mindfulness helps me become more aware of my stress. Because if we're not aware of our stress, then it doesn't matter. You can have 100 different tools to reduce stress. But if you're not aware that you're stressed, then you're not going to be able to do anything about it. You're not going to know to do anything about it, right? So for me, it builds up that awareness. And it's not really about, for me, it's not about having no thoughts or clearing my mind of thoughts or having out of body experiences. And it's not really even about relaxing for me, mindfulness. For me, there's other ways to relax that are better for me. Mindfulness for me is about training my awareness, training my body and my mind to become aware of my stress signals. So in mindfulness, we start by doing a lot of body scans, for instance. So we're noticing what sensations there are in the body, what sensations can I feel in my foot, what sensations can I feel in my stomach. Noticing what thoughts are in my mind, noticing what emotions are in the body. So we're just noticing without getting in the way and without trying to change anything. Okay, so that's the mind. So the mindfulness is the more passive, viewing, observing part of what I would do with stress and burnout. We're not taking action. We're not judging any of the emotions. We're not judging any of the thoughts. We're not trying to do better. We're just noticing. And each time we get distracted, we gently bring our awareness back and we notice what we're trying to notice once again. All right. So it's just building up that awareness. Okay. And so because I've built up all this awareness in my life, I can notice much more quickly than I was able to 10 years ago when I'm out of balance. So if I notice that something super simple, my shoulders are up by my ears, I'll notice that pretty quickly. And I'll be like, okay, shoulders up by my ears, let me just bring them down. Simple as that. Or shoulders are up by my ears, what's going on there? What stress is in my environment? What am I writing? Why is this happening while I'm writing this email? Why am I frowning while I'm writing this email? Okay, so there's something about this that is stressful to me. And sometimes it's just a question of take a breath, relax my forehead, relax my shoulders. Do I feel fine now? Okay, cool. Keep going in a relaxed manner. But sometimes it's like, actually, no, I'm cranky about this email, and do I need to send this email? And actually, maybe I don't. Let me leave that email for another time, and let me do something else, or go and take a walk, or whatever. So it's just kind of keeping myself in balance, helping me notice when I'm about to do something maybe that I don't need to do. So it could be sending that cranky email or that cranky text message. So simple things like that, but it can also make me notice when I'm being unreasonable to someone else. So I can hear myself now sometimes before I even say something, or as I'm saying something, I'm like, that's not appropriate, or that's not fair. So it allows me to become a bit more discerning about what I'm doing and catch myself a lot quicker. And if I notice that I'm ruminating on something, I'll notice that a lot quicker. And I'll be like, okay, do I need to work on this or not? Sometimes I do, in which case I take action. Many times I don't. So I'm not getting caught up in any emotional or thought or behavioral spiral. So for me, mindfulness is building up that awareness, and mindfulness meditation is probably the best way of building up that awareness skill. So that's why I meditate, and that's why I practice mindfulness.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. So mindfulness, I mean, what I hear, what will go through my mind is it really is an intense awareness of being in tune with your own body, your own signals that your body's giving you, so that you can take corrective action rather than allowing the stress to build up, because we're all going to experience those stresses, as you say, but whether we energize the stresses or whether we do simple things like you described, taking a breath or some of those things, and it can be as easy as that, just to bring the body back into balance.
Yeah, and it could be turning off my calendar tomorrow and taking a day off. It could be booking in a holiday in 2 weeks' time because I know I've got a big 2 weeks coming up of work. So it's just about being, and by the way, this is the more high performance version of mindfulness. So becoming aware so that I can take corrective action. So that's that's the high performance version of mindfulness. But mindfulness, you could just be being aware for the sake of awareness.
Yeah.
That's true mindfulness.
But yeah, I mean, I love the fact that being aware just for the sake of awareness, that you don't have to take action, because when you do have that pressure of doing something or taking some kind of action, that can ironically lead to even more stress.
So that's my work on for life. So even when it comes to mindfulness, I can't help myself. I guess my high achiever is very, very ingrained. So I have to carve out purposeful time in my life to do nothing, and it's still incredibly difficult for me to do. It's a it's quite funny. I'm sure in about 10 years time, 20 years time, I'll look back at my whole framework and I'll be like, oh, poor Chibs. He was doing his best to, but he got there in the end, so I'm gradually becoming more mindful and realizing actually you don't need to do as much as you think you need to do. You can take the foot off the pedal a little bit. But that's definitely been my work on. And that's why I'm good when I work with high performers, because I'm taking them from where I used to be down to here.
Yes.
But I would strongly suggest they're not ready to hear that. And maybe I'm not even ready to hear that. Probably the right place to be is a lot further down,
Yes.
doing a lot less, but we've got to do the best that we can with the tools that we've got.
Yeah, no, 100%. You talk a lot about high performers, and I know you use language like strivers, and I'm curious how you would define a high performer based on the people that you meet and the challenges that those particular people experience.
Yeah, and maybe I should make a distinction between high performer and high achiever. Yeah, just so that they don't get it twisted. We can all be high achievers, or many of us can be high achievers, doesn't mean we're performing at a high level, right? So it's about recognizing that you are a high achiever and that possibly you're not performing at the level that you want to perform at. And maybe even if you are performing at that level, as in productivity wise, are you being productive and enjoying your life and feeling good while you're doing it? So it's kind of like there's two separate things going on there. And what I try and instill, and it's a slow burn for this one, but I try and instill that in my clients, not that I do one-on-ones anymore, I mainly work with teams now, but I try and instill in people that performance should include how well you are performing in life, okay, and working out what that means. And for some people, their work is the be all and end all. So I'm not going to tell Lewis Hamilton that he needs to take it easy around the corners, right? That's what he's here to do. That 0.1 of a millisecond is super important to him. Being that close to the barrier is super important to him. And that's what his life is all about. All right, cool. All right, I get it. It's willing to risk your life on. But what I would suggest is that someone is a middle manager in some corporation somewhere, it's not worth that extra millisecond. It's not worth getting that close to the barrier. This is a good analogy. I must write this one down. I'm going to use it next time. I've just been watching Drive to Survive. So I've got Formula One in my head right now. So yeah, it's just a question of realizing what is important to you. Is it really that important? What does your whole life mean? And I know we've talked about this in the past, what are your pillars of life that lead to this overall well-being, and just helping them understand that well-being is part of their performance if they're looking at their life and not just looking at their work in a very narrow focus. Because who cares? Who cares if you're at the top of your game, if you're going home and drinking a bottle of wine each day by yourself, watching Netflix, and then waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning because you've had a cortisol spike and you're just alert and then you can't sleep. Miserable life. Okay, so what's the point in being a high performer in that very narrow area? So let's just try and gradually edge them towards realizing that performance is about, if they want to use that high performance language, be a high performer in life as well as work.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's a much more holistic picture that if one part of your life is doing well, let's say, but it's costing you relationships, costing you health, then that's not necessarily what you would deem a success overall.
It might be, So again, as I say, that lonely Formula One driver that is number one in the world, and that's all he wants to do. He wants to be the fastest person ever. If his purpose is that strong, then cool. But let's work that out first. How important is that part really? And it may be important. I don't know. Like, we all need to make that decision for
Sure.
ourselves. But I've found that over time, I've realized, money wasn't that important. Status wasn't as important as I thought it was. So I've
Mm,
realized over time, but that is a gradual
yes.
mindset shift as
Mm,
well. We're all on our own journey to
yeah.
work that out.
And that brings us back to what you were saying around mindfulness. So we talked about mindfulness as bringing awareness to the body signals, but really it's bringing awareness to all of your life habits and choices so that you can, doesn't mean you have to change. This is what I'm hearing you say, but at least you're aware of the costs. So if you want to take the corners that close, then you know there's a risk. And I think that's all we can, as a high performer, that's really what we're hoping to achieve, that we've got that awareness, which gives us choice. So we're making decisions choicefully.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. So it's awareness of every aspect in your life. And this is what you don't always realize what you're doing. So, like, I teach MBSR, mindfulness based stress reductions. That's what my certification, my accreditation is in. And I've been doing that for 9 years or so. And we start with body scans, body scans, body scans, body scans, body scans for like 4 weeks. That's all you're doing is bloody body scans. And people are wondering, why am I doing this? Because you're just training that awareness. But in the background, what's going on is you're noticing your own patterns. So you're just starting to notice everything. So you start in the body because that's where most people aren't connected to. I certainly wasn't connected, and that's still a journey for me, is to get more embodied and get my body and mind more connected, because I have a tendency to be in my head a lot. I'm a thinker, logical, always trying to do things, trying to work things out, systems, processes. So getting down in the body first of all. And so you work on that first, but all the lessons that you learn through mindfulness, there's this kind of wisdom that gets imparted to who knows where, your subconscious somewhere. And then you start noticing your behaviors, even if you're not actually paying attention to your behaviors. You can start noticing your patterns, even if your intention wasn't to investigate your patterns. You just kind of like, I noticed this now. I noticed this now. So just starting in the body, doing all this mindfulness, doing all this meditation, you notice things that you weren't necessarily looking for. So there's this kind of slow burn of, maybe we could call it wisdom, I suppose, that happens in the background. And it can be kind of frustrating as well, because you'll notice your own flaws and you'll get frustrated that other people don't notice their flaws. And then so you're like, why is everyone so stupid? And why am I the only one who knows when he's in the wrong and the other person's not in the wrong? So it kind of goes from there. I kind of explain it like, if we think about the Matrix, you're in the blue pill world. So you take the red pill. Is it the red pill? I think you take the red pill, and then suddenly you can see the world as it really is. You're like, okay, right, now I can see things a little bit differently. And then you kind of get black pilled after that, because you're like, no one else can see what I can see. And then you start getting really judgy about everyone, and you get pissed off and you get annoyed that no one else, you'll be having an argument and then be suddenly like, let me see my side of it. And so you see your side of it and the other person doesn't see their side of it. And then you're just like, I hate everyone. And then the next stage for me with mindfulness was, I guess, the white pill. And I was like, okay, we're all struggling. I thought I knew that 10 years ago. Now I know that I didn't know that. Even after my mindfulness journey, I thought that I knew this. And then 10 weeks later, I realized, I missed that as well. So I'm still completely clueless. I just might be a little less clueless than this person in this particular environment at this particular time, right? So, okay, we're all doing the best that we can with the tools that we've got. And I now have compassion for you, and I have compassion for myself as well. So I'm not going to give myself a hard time for screwing up, So, yeah, like there's plenty of things that I've got wrong in the past, and doesn't, even when I've been in my super mindful phase, I've gone, yeah, that was wrong as well, actually.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
because you're human, and I think that's a key thing. Your toolkit may have got bigger and bigger, but you're still human. So, and it's how you use your tools.
Yeah, we're all human, and so mindfulness. Then the current stage of mindfulness, let's say, of me is like that white pill. The compassion part, and now it's like okay, yeah, and now all the self-compassion meditations and loving kindness meditations. All right, so now they're becoming more important to me now, and and that kind of flows through with my sleep meditations as well. So I'll do a lot of my meditations will kind of build up that compassion, that self-compassion, and actually it's okay to be wherever you are
Mm,
right now, and this moment is enough. So that's kind of what I'm trying to encourage people to do, maybe at an earlier stage now than I would have done before with my high performers.
yes. Amazing. What I'm wondering now is, because I love to give people an experience, and because we can talk about mindfulness and then we can experience it. I'm wondering if you'd be open to doing a very short mini experience, whether it's a body scan or one of the many meditations that you've got, very short, you've only got a few minutes, but would you be open to doing that now?
Yeah, we can just do a little reset. So one of the, I guess, there's a couple of main tools that I will use for my clients, and if I do any introductory workshop and I've only got an hour with people, then I've got a set amount of tools. One of those will be micro breaks, because I guess we tend to go from one of the reasons why we end up building up so much stress during the day is because we don't create any of those areas of space. We don't create any of those areas of calm or balance throughout the day. And we might go from one meeting to another meeting to another meeting as the stress builds and builds and builds. So I encourage all my clients and everyone to do little micro breaks throughout the day. So a minute or two of breathing or mindfulness or whatever it might be, just to reset and just to kind of bring yourself down. So it's not going to bring you down from an 8 out of 10 to a 0 out of 10, but it might bring you down from an 8 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10.
Yeah,
And that's good to
that's
go into
good.
the next meeting with, or
Yeah,
to go into the next session with. So let's just do a little micro break then.
yeah, let's do
We'll
that.
do a minute or two.
That
All
sounds
right,
good.
cool. So we don't have to get into any strange position or particular positions. Just sit in any way that feels relaxing to you. And you can do this with your eyes open or your eyes closed. If you are going to have your eyes open, just have a soft gaze in front of you on the floor or on the desk. And let's just begin by noticing how the body feels right now. Is the body tense? Is the body relaxed? Maybe there's certain areas of tension, maybe certain areas of the body feel relaxed. So just noticing, we're not changing anything, just noticing. And let's notice what's going on in the mind. Is the mind busy? Is the mind kind of clear? Somewhere in between. Again, don't need to do anything about it, just noticing. And now let's bring awareness to the breath. So how is the body breathing right now? We don't need to change anything about the breath. No need to deepen the breath or slow down the breath. But sometimes just by bringing awareness to the breath naturally slows and softens. So just seeing if that's the case today. And we're not so much watching the breath, but we're feeling the breath. We're noticing the breath. So what does it feel like to breathe? So perhaps we can feel the cool air coming in through the nostrils as we breathe in. The lungs, the chest, the stomach expanding. And then we might feel the warm air leaving the nostrils as we breathe out. As the body softens and relaxes and sinks deeper into the chair. We breathe in, the body expands. And we breathe out as the body softens and relaxes. And as we come to the end of this practice, just noticing how the body's feeling now, noticing how the mind's feeling. Do we feel any different to 2 minutes ago? No right or wrong answer, just noticing. And if the eyes are closed, feeling free to open the eyes and coming back to the room. So, how are you feeling, Lawrence?
Good. Reset. It's amazing. How long was that?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, really. It felt like a lot longer. Yeah, that's
maybe 3. I don't know. I wasn't timing today, so
yeah.
yeah.
2 or 3 minutes. Yeah, but
we can look at the timestamp afterwards.
Yeah, but you can see how making that space completely resets your whole nervous system to allow you to go into that next whatever the next thing is that you're doing. Thank you so much, Chibs, for
you're
doing
very
that.
welcome.
So as we come to a close of this conversation, I've really enjoyed talking to you. Where can people find you? I know you're on YouTube, you're on many different social media platforms.
Yeah, so YouTube is where I spend most of my time. So if anyone wants to sleep with me tonight, then they can go to my YouTube channel. But I am sleeping with a lot of people at the moment. So as long as everyone's aware of that. Yeah, so Chibs, there's not many Chibs on YouTube, maybe just one. So just put in Chibs sleep meditations and then you'll be able to get to my channel. That's got all my sleep stuff on there. And if they want to sign up for my newsletter, that'll be a good one because I've got quite a few interesting things coming up, some of which I can't talk about yet, but if you sign up to the newsletter, then you'll be able to keep abreast of those. So chibs.co is my website, so chibs.co. You can go and sign up for my newsletter there. Yeah, those are probably the 2 best places. And then Instagram, chibs.co, if you want to see pictures of me and my dogs, I guess. But yeah, those are the best places to find me.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Chibs. And let me acknowledge you. I've known you now for quite a while. I forget how long. It must be 8 years, 9 years, something like that. And it's been great to see how you've evolved and your commitment to mindfulness, to self-growth, self-development, and really supporting others on their own journey is really commendable. So I just really wanted to acknowledge you for that. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for making the space. I'm glad we were able to do this. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye now.